FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of 57-year-old Minnesota man Vance Luther Bolter, a suspect in the assassination of a top state lawmaker. That is the chilling footage and photos that we've all seen today of him at her door. Melissa Hortman, a member of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party and a former Speaker of the State House, and her husband Mark, they were shot and killed early this morning. Bolter is also a suspect in an attack on another lawmaker, State Senator John Hortman, and his wife Yvette. They are expected to survive multiple gunshot wounds. Officials released this photo of the suspect taken this morning in Minneapolis, saying they believe he is working to flee the Twin Cities area. Officials believe the attacks were politically motivated. They say he left behind a list of potential targets. According to an official who has seen the list, the targets are prominent pro-choice individuals in Minnesota, including many Democratic lawmakers who have been outspoken about pro-choice policy positions. They also found dozens of pieces of paper with the words "No Kings" scrawled on them in a car used by the suspect. What those words mean to the suspect, what connection they might have to thousands of protests today, is still unclear. If we learn more, we will certainly bring that all to you.
The conspiracy theories pushed by MAGA not only reveal how ignorant they are, but shows how broken their movement is. For years, they claimed Joe Biden or Barack Obama were best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, only for that not to be the case for them, but true of Trump. And when they were confronted with that bombshell, they simply moved on, showing how little they actually care. And the same can be seen yesterday when, instead of giving Minnesota families time to grieve over the loss of their loved ones, they immediately went to their keyboards to create a false narrative that immediately backfired after the true political leanings of the shooter was revealed. We are going to cover it all. And I am going to get into how it has completely backfired on MAGA. But first, I want to start with a breaking news update about the manhunt for this shooter, this assassin. And it starts with this article right here. Assassin's wife stopped with gun cash and passports, the wife of man suspected of killing a Democratic lawmaker, and her husband was detained in a traffic stop. And police discovered a weapon, ammunition, cash, and passports in the trunk of her car. Jenny Bolter was stopped by officers in Minnesota around 10 a.m. on Saturday. Local news, KTSP, reported. Though it was not clear whether the check was a routine stop or planned raid by law enforcement as part of efforts to track down the murder SP suspect Vance Luther Bolter. 57 Jenny and 3 relatives with whom she was traveling were detained for 2 to 3 hours while police searched the car and asked questions. Both couples were attacked in their homes, the Hortmans in their residence in Brooklyn Park in the suburbs of Minneapolis, and the Hoffmans at their property in Champlain, North Minneapolis. A manhunt is underway for Vance, who is believed to be traveling on foot and is thought to have left the area. Police said at a press conference the FBI, which is leading the investigation, has offered a reward of up to $50,000 for information that leads to the capture and conviction of Bolter. There is an ongoing manhunt. An investigation by the FBI is taking place to bring this shooter to justice. Lives have been lost. Families are in mourning. And what is MAGA doing right now? The party that claims to care about life. What are they focused on? They're creating conspiracies right now to attack Democrats. Democrats who have just lost 2 members of their party. It's not even about politics. 2 people have lost their lives, and MAGA is focusing on conspiracies. Elon Musk is pushing this gross narrative. It demonstrates their lack of humanity. Which is why, before we see this report about the actual political affiliation of this alleged shooter, which is blowing up in the face of MAGA, I want to hear from a representative in Minnesota who actually worked side by side for years with Melissa Hortman, honoring her memory. I want to take a look right here.
State Representative Sidney Jordan, who sat next to Representative Melissa Hortman on the floor. Sidney, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so sorry for your loss. I wonder what is going through your mind right now.
Thank you. It's been just an absolutely gut-wrenching day for myself, for everyone in Minnesota. And to answer the question about what's going through your mind, it's almost like there's no words. It's no real way to think about this. It's just a devastating loss for those of us that knew her as our colleague, for those of us who were lucky enough to count her as her friends, for her family, and for every single Minnesotan whose life she undoubtedly made better.
As I noted a moment ago, you sat next to her literally through some of Minnesota's most difficult moments in recent years. What do you remember about her personally? What was she like?
I sat next to Speaker Hortman this year. Most of my memories of her are actually on top of the speaker's dais. And she did lead us through, as our leader above our House floor, making sure that everyone in the House had their voices heard and were able to represent their constituents. I think about her guidance when we were struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic, when she gave personal guidance to us as we were reeling from the murder of George Floyd and the civil unrest that impacted my city of Minneapolis, what we've done when we had strong political debates. But sitting next to her, I think about my friend that was very funny. I think she had a very wry sense of humor and was a very direct person. She could tell you was not someone who was going to, candy coat what you needed to do. She was somebody who gave you that direct advice and told you what you needed to hear in that moment. And some of that guidance and that gentle but firm ideas that she would give people is the kind of leadership that is rare and is so needed. And it's an unspeakable loss.
In such an unsettling time, it is so important to ground ourselves in humanity, in empathy, and in care, which is the opposite of what we are seeing from MAGA right now. And of course, their leaders are engaging in the most foul smears. We saw Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna retweet and then UN retweet when she got caught, a post calling this a false flag operation. And of course, Elon Musk was posting, which immediately backfired after the truth from a local news station came out. And I want to take a look at that right here. Responding to a post claiming that the shooter was a Democrat spurred on by the rhetoric of Tim Walz, Elon Musk wrote, "The far left is murderously violent." But that post from Elon quickly backfired as a local news report detailed the actual true political affiliation of the alleged shooter.
We even asked about Mr. Bolter's political affiliations, and David Carlson, once again his roommate and best friend, known him since 4th grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter, but he hasn't really talked about politics lately. And from what his friend knew, he had no idea that Bolter was interested at all in local or state lawmakers as well. His friend didn't even know the names of the lawmakers who were attacked today. He had no idea, the friend had no idea of Bolter even going to the state capitol. Once again, he never talked about state lawmakers. And that is some of the political affiliations that he told us about. Although he did have some ties in the Congo, apparently he flew out to D.C. to meet with an official from the Congo.
He was a Trump supporter. He was an anti-abortion extremist. He had lists of abortion providers, of state lawmakers, of Congress members. Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz was on the list of Democrats he wanted to go after. And the claim is that he himself was inspired by Tim Walz. Tim Walz lost a friend. And that's what MAGA is trying to spin up. This is a movement led by Donald Trump that not just encourages violence, but excuses it and then gives it justification. Donald Trump began his presidency, began it by pardoning 1,500 cop beating insurrectionists. He constantly speaks about his urge to suppress with violence anyone who will stand in opposition to him, and we wonder why political violence is so common. Months were spent mocking the attack on Paul Pelosi by Donald Trump, by his sons, by his supporters. They excuse it, and then they justify it as a means to protect their movement. because they quite literally view us people standing in opposition to their attacks on our freedom, on our country, on those coming here to seek a better life as less than human. So why else would we expect this to happen besides their rhetoric? But it's not just their words, the actions taken by the Trump administration to let anyone know who wants to, in their mind, fight for him, carry out violence on his behalf. Then not only are they more than welcome, not only are they encouraged, but likely. If they do, they'll get off scot-free. That's the type of movement Donald Trump has built. It's terrifying. It is terrifying. We have to return ourselves to a place where we can understand collective humanity. And that's not what MAGA seeks to do, but it is our job to do. So, this is not a when they go low, we go high type of situation. We're going to call this out. We don't have to beat around the bush with it. MAG's got blood on their hands, but we do have to meet this moment with empathy. And we do, in this moment, have to fight and present a vision that isn't just an opposition, but one that has an aspirational vision for the good that our politics can do. And someone who talked about that, someone talking about their state was our DNC chin chair, Ken Martin. He's from Minnesota. And he spoke about the lives that were lost. And I think it's just important to take a look.
But joining me now is Ken Martin. He is the chair of the Democratic National Committee. He's a proud son of Minnesota, and he is a friend of both the Hortman and Hoffman families. Ken, we are I'm so grateful for you to be here with us tonight, because this is so much going on around the country. But I know for you and for so many people from Minnesota, this is a very personal story, a personal night, a tragic night. And I just want to start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about Speaker Hortman and her husband, Mark. What should we know about them?
Well, first, let me just say, Jen, thanks for having me on. Look, like many Minnesotans, I woke up this morning actually in Kentucky to the news, just getting texts that there'd been a shooting in Minnesota, not knowing at the time that it involved many of my friends, including Melissa Hortman, who I've had the great pleasure of knowing for half of my life. I first met her when I was 27 years old. She was 30. This was in the year 2000. She was running for the State House for the very first time. She was a proud alum of Al Gore's Senate office, and I was working for Al Gore's campaign at the time, and we just became really fast friends during that year. And I will tell you, she lost that race. She went on to run again, and she lost again. And in 2003, I can't get this conversation out of my head, because we were down in Iowa campaigning for John Kerry together. And as we were coming back to Minneapolis, driving that 3-hour trip back, she asked me about what she thought, what I thought about her running again. And, I told her something that Paul Wellstone said, that the future does not belong to the cynics or those who sit on the sidelines, but the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams and who are change makers. So Melissa was a huge change maker, just amazing. She did a lot for this state.
You're going to make me cry, which is okay. It's incredible to hear about her and her husband and who they are and who they were, and it's just a reminder of the human beings that are just trying to be public servants and are targeted simply for being public servants, which is just it's outrageous. It's horrific. I want to ask you too, and please keep sharing more about Melissa. We can keep talking about that as long as you would like. I think people love to hear it.
I want to say something more about Melissa before we get into how we got to this mess, because you know what? She was an amazing elected official, and she just persisted. She ran again in 2004 and won that race, and then really climbed the ranks within the state house. She was a fierce champion for working families in our state. And she obviously was one of the longest serving speakers of the House, but she also is one of the most consequential speakers of the House. You've heard a lot about the Minnesota Miracle. That she was the architect of that. That would not have happened without her vision, without her leadership, without her persistence in actually making sure that we push hard for an agenda that actually improved people's lives, that centered on working families in our state. As a result, we passed the largest child tax credit, free school lunches for children, paid family medical leave, the largest investments in our K-12 education system, early childhood education. You can go down the list of things she did to actually center working families and children in the conversation. None none of that would have happened without Melissa Hortman, and we all owe her a great debt of gratitude.
Yeah, no question about it. There's some incredible stories about her leadership and what she did in the role and her time in public service. In your statement today, which struck me because it was so personal and it was also powerful, and you said these heinous murders are a reflection of the extremism and political violence that have been fomented in our country. I know we're all asking. I mean, in Minnesota, I know, and across the country tonight, how something like this could happen in America. I said earlier, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I know people keep saying this is not who we are, and I think part of it is this is part of who we are, and we need to talk about how political violence on the rise is something that's threatening public officials across the country. But how have you been answering that question today to yourself, to the people who have called you and asked?
Well, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, it has become who we are, but it doesn't mean that is who we should be.
Yeah.
We're better than this. And at the end of the day, we should solve our differences in this country, not through political violence, but at the ballot box, right? And, I thought my governor said it best today when he said, remarkably, just a week ago in Minnesota, they ended their legislative session through compromise. In one of the most closely divided state legislatures in the country, they came together, Republicans and Democrats. They resolved their differences through compromise, through finding common ground to actually get something done for Minnesotans. And it's just so tragic here.
We have to meet this moment. There is so much that it is going to take from us just in terms of the sheer emotional and physical toll every day. But there is a better country we can build, although it seems so difficult every day. And I promise to use my voice the best I can to fight for it with you. And if you want to support that, as always, you can subscribe to this channel. It goes a long way in supporting our work. And until next time, I'll see you soon.